we have a great channel, the Film Archives, if you want to see a first-hand account or primary source of the evils of the beast government. Check out this one, CIA Covert Action, Dirty Tricks, Assassination Plots, Destabilization of Foreign Governments. Now, 1982. This is where all the intelligence agencies really started getting their power. Was in 1982 with official state secrets being protected. And you'll see here what I always say, that intelligence agencies around the world are colluding and cooperating, that tensions are manufactured. Don't believe me? Don't believe me. Here's a former CIA agent saying the exact same thing.
In the 4 or 5 posts that I served in overseas full-time, we had full liaison with the president of the country, the chief of the police, and all the police officers and all the military officers. This means that we met with them weekly in the name of the CIA, no secrets, to have lunch or dinner and exchange information and do favors for each other. If there were ever a terrorist attack or threat against one of us, the first thing we would do would be pick up the telephone and call the local police chief and say, hey, there's a threat against us. And I might note that this would also apply in the Soviet Union. If there were a terrorist threat in Moscow against the U.S. Embassy or a U.S. case officer or CIA man, they would call the local police and say, you know, somebody's about to blow us up. There is a brotherhood of secret, quote, secret police agents that functions like a brotherhood even when they're supposedly on the other side. They're competing, but it's sort of like professional football players. They're on different teams, but they're still professional football players.
Well, you had buddies who were KGB agents.
Oh, indeed. Played tennis with them, played chess with them, socialized with them, went drinking with them, and that was the SOP for all case officers everywhere. An agent kicks in the door of your house and rapes your wife or whatever, and you publish a story about it without citing a name, it would still be a felony.
Under the executive order, so we have to see both the executive order and the Intelligence Identities Bill as almost part of a package. Under the executive order, the CIA now will be allowed, and is allowed since it was signed in December by the President, it is now law, the CIA will be allowed to carry out covert activities in the United States, as well as all the other agencies too. So that if you were to discover, for example, that a member of an intelligence agency had infiltrated, say, your church organization, your student organization, your trade union, or whatever organization, or any group of more than 2 people, was infiltrated, and you discovered this, and you so much as mentioned it to a friend without even writing a news article or without even talking about it on the media, on television, for example, you could be held criminally liable under this bill. And we're talking about a bill which authorizes or which penalizes persons for 15 years in prison, 5 years in prison, $15,000 fine, or both. If this bill had been law then, we would have never known about Watergate.
It would have been illegal to expose it.
Absolutely. But now it will be clear to many more Americans that there is a sort of a split-level foreign policy, as there is a split-level policy at home. There is the rhetoric, and then there's I think many Americans, as a result of these 2 matters and others also, will begin to learn what it's like to live in a third world country which is being targeted by the CIA. Many Americans have lost sight of the fact that many citizens of other countries, particularly in the third world, have been the victims of massive CIA operations, covert operations. Everything from recruitment to bribery to buying of an election, on up the line to paramilitary activities and terrorism, training and torture, and even assassination and overthrowing of governments. And I think that Americans fail to realize this until it starts sometimes to hit them at home. And that's apparently what's going to be happening now. And legally, this administration makes no bones that it wishes to, that it sees its own people, many of us, as...
But on the one hand, they're doing it without constitutional amendments, and 2, they're doing it without the nation even being aware of it, which says something about the vigilance of Americans and their own feelings about their freedom of speech and press. They could care less. They would rather watch a football game.
Why is this the case, or why have they gotten so far with it, without media scrutiny, without public uproar, etc.? It's not just the apathy of the people, isn't it? Also, the media just hasn't reported on what's involved in this.
Well, the media in this country is the most apathetic that I've ever seen in the world in terms of playing ball with the administration. 80% of our news is reporting quotations of political leaders. President Reagan giving a speech in which everything he says is either distortions of historical fact or propaganda statements in effect, or bold-faced lies, all mixed together, and yet the press will report his speech as a fact. It is a fact. He made a speech. He said those words, but they don't say at the end, and everybody in the room, that it was all bull.
It came out by the investigations that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms agents was working with the Nazis. Indeed, he was the one who gave them the names of the people to be shot. Also, there was FBI and local police complicity with the Klan members. As a matter of fact, it's come out that the FBI itself established over 40 chapters of the Klan over the years in North Carolina alone. These revelations would be a felony now.
Yeah, it would, exactly.
If this passes.
It would be a felony to reveal such information to the American public.
Or
government of, by, and for the people is soon to be a thing of the past in the United States.
What this will do is to put the CIA, the FBI, and these other government agencies outside of the realm of public criticism and even discussion.
Or law.
Yeah,
outside of the law.
Right.
Because they've broken every law of man and God in the activities they have conducted, the experimentation on American citizens, for example, with chemicals and disease, the propaganda of the United States, breaking and entering, Colonel White's famous words about where else can a red-blooded boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage in the name of the All-Highest. Now they will be able to...
Who was this?
This was Colonel George M. White, one of the founders of the CIA, who eventually directed the MK-Ultra program. The United States ambivalence, the duplicity, the Jekyll and Hyde aspect of the United States character, where we profess such high ideals, and yet traditionally we have exploited, we have engaged in activities that included dropping atom bombs on women and children in Japan, eliminating large elements of the Indian population of this country, and in the past 30 years killing well over 800,000 people in the third world under circumstances that can only be called terrorism, but doing it pretending all the while to be idealistic, high-minded, human rights-oriented, freedom-loving people. Now, these values are brought together in the CIA, where people are diplomats by cover and CIA agents by trade.
The minute we are involved in the torture or in the death of a single person in another country, our rights are being abridged, and our tax money, to say the least, is being used
And
to
our
carry it on.
humanity is being violated because we're being asked to accept inhuman acts perpetuated in our name as Americans.
Plus the fact that it eventually will come home. If they use it successfully
Right.
overseas, they'll use it on the United States citizens as well.
Come on, the CIA would never infiltrate domestic groups, right? Would never do anything like this to people who want justice, people who want transparency, to people who want to live in a sane world, breathe clean air, drink and eat clean food and water. No, the CIA would never do that.
Legal biased information and depriving the citizen, the defendant, of the right to defend himself, to get the full information out. It's a new law. It's a new era we're getting into. It's 180 degrees new from what this country